Even more new fears now for Our Gracious Majesty the Queen. But what are they today? Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the heart of London. Thanks for joining me today. And as ever, truly nice to have your company. If you're wondering where I am today, behind me is the very famous Ivy restaurant. It's really posh in there. Apparently they do a shepherd's pie and it's quite expensive. I went in once and it's one of those places, let me tell you, where it's full of celebrities, right? So whenever the door opens, nobody's interested in you. They just keep looking around thinking, who's that? Who's that? You know, the sort of place. And the other side there, which you can see, is a theatre. And the theatre there basically is the Ambassador Theatre, used in a lot of films throughout the 30s, 40s, 50s and 60s because of its size. It's a beautiful sized theatre, it's about 500 seats now. Currently owned, I believe, by Cameron Mackintosh, you know, the theatre impresario that brought us things like Miss Saigon and Phantom of the Opera. Back as ever though to your royal breaking story of the day. On a more serious note, as we know, Prince Andrew is going through a very difficult time, as one can imagine right now. And what we are learning is that he was really upset, naturally, when Our Gracious Majesty the Queen, his mother, had to strip him of his titles, military titles, and everything else associated with being a senior royal. But now, of course, there's a bigger picture attached to that. And, you know, one has to have some compassion, let's not forget. This is a trying time for all. And as I've said many times here on the show, I find it incredible that the mainstream media has basically decided their, you know, sort of figure, if you like. They've decided almost that this senior member of the British monarchy is guilty. This is an ongoing case. It will not really hit its stride until around September, November of this year. And it's going to be really interesting. From the other side of the coin, Miss Virginia Giuffre, her sort of, shall we say, personal life will be picked apart. And then, of course, we've recently been told that the other accomplice in this particular sordid detail, shall we say, Ghislaine Maxwell, will be sentenced on June the 28th. Now, so consequently, it depends on what she might now say in order to get a more lenient sentence. But Prince Andrew is causing Our Gracious Majesty the Queen obviously a lot of worry, and here's the reason why. Apparently, according to a very good source out at Windsor, naturally he's now very depressed, very worried, very concerned about his future. But more importantly, of course, one has to think about, as we say in these modern times, his mental health. We were told that when he had that meeting opposite the Queen, his mother, he broke down in tears. It's all become simply too much for him. Now, as we've told you also on the show, there are people on his side. Prince Edward is there, and more importantly, of course, his devoted ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, alongside his daughters, who are all supporting him. But one has to remember this is a really difficult time for all concerned. And as I said at the beginning of this video, it's very worrying for someone like Our Gracious Majesty the Queen, simply because at her age of 95, she should, of course, be relenting from having to worry about the health and lifestyle of her 61-year-old son. But of course, everything reflects back to the head of state, the monarch. And like she has to worry about her subjects around the world, more importantly, closer to home, she also has to worry about her family. And I've been told by a very good source that Her Majesty the Queen has truly taken this very badly herself. So if you are a member of the mainstream media, just think of the bigger picture that your reporting is doing. And more importantly, let's just hold fire against the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, before we make assumptions that are clearly not being proven yet. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.